بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله صحبه أجمعين. Thank you everyone for being with us on our very first webinar of the year and the first of the series as we approach Ramadan, inshallah. Today we're going to be discussing Zakat on investment. We thought that instead of starting with some of the basics as we usually do in the previous years, we'll get right down to business and get into the most heated and the hot topic, which is investments. And we're going to be, inshallah, talking about all kinds of different things, zakat on your TFSA accounts, your pensions, RRSPs, education fund accounts. We're going to be discussing crypto a little bit, NFTs. We're going to get into properties and really just have a holistic view on how one goes about doing their calculation for zakat when it comes to various types of investments. I am joined with Sheikh Aarij Anwer, and I'd like to thank him for being here and for his time. MashaAllah, he serves as a Director of Religious Affairs at the London Muslim Mosque and the Muslim Chaplain at Western. He holds a Bachelor's of Computer Science from Waterloo University and a Bachelor of Education from Toronto, and a Bachelor of Islamic Sciences in Islamic Jurisprudence from Al-Madinah University in Malaysia. So that's the Al-Madinah International University. He's also proud to say that he is a Zakat consultant with us at National Zakat Foundation. Before we just jump in, I want to give out a huge shout out and thanks to the London Muslim Mosque for collaborating with us on this event. Jazakumullah khair for pushing it and bringing the community, inviting the community to take part in this educational seminar. There will be some Q&A session towards the end. So those of you who are viewing this webinar on Zoom, you'll be able to put your questions in the Q&A section, and we will take up the questions at the end of the webinar. Those who are watching on Facebook, you can put your questions in the comments. We'll try to get to them. And my apologies in advance if you cannot get through all of the questions. If that happens, we will leave an email and a web form link for you where you can enter your questions, and they will come to us, and we can direct those to Sheikh Aarij for him to respond to you by email, inshallah. Other than that, if anything else comes up, you can't, if you know, any issues, I'll be here the whole time with Sheikh Aarij in the chat. So just feel free to put your inquiries in there. But questions and answers related to the session, please put them in the Q&A section because we don't want them to be lost. With that, I will be handing it over to Sheikh Aarij Anwer. Please, Bismillah, and take it away. Jazakallah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, thank you all for being here with me, with us today, alhamdulillah. It's a real honor and pleasure for me to be here presenting this to you all. I see some familiar names, alhamdulillah, in the participants. This is great, and the attendees. And inshallah, I hope to see more people join us in this webinar. With that said, I am going to share my screen, and I have a PowerPoint here with me, and it is going to be quite involved. So I want you to, stay with me, inshallah, okay? And then we'll go from there. Brother Zaid, before we begin, could I just ask you to maybe, if you're okay, to record this to the cloud? Is that what you're doing right now?
Yes, absolutely. It is being live streamed to Facebook, and it is also being recorded there. So if anybody has to sort of leave in the middle, or they just they come towards the end, or whatever the case might be, or if you know somebody who's missed this webinar, please feel free to give them the link. And again, we will provide that by email as well. All you have to do, or if you miss it in the email, go to our Facebook page at NZF Canada, and you will be able to find the full recording there, bi'idhnillah.
Okay, great, inshallah. Thank you. I was just going to request that you record it on, through Zoom, so you have the copy of it, on Zoom like cloud copy or local copy. That's the record button. I think you are recording it, which
Yeah,
is
it is. It is recording locally as well. That's right.
awesome. Let's get going, inshallah. The reason was for that was sometimes, Facebook, there's glitches and hiccups and whatnot. It is what it is. All right, people, alhamdulillah. Let's get going, inshallah. Zakat on investments. This is a very important topic. Here is our agenda for today. Zakatable wealth conditions. This is a word that we kind of make up to tell us about or to describe the types of assets that we pay zakat on. That's what zakatable means, something that you pay zakat on. When is zakat paid on and what zakat is not paid on? We will discuss that. We will discuss are investments zakatable? I think the answer briefly would be yes, but we'll discuss how exactly we will determine that. Then we will talk about also zakat and money, the nature of money, how zakat is how nature of money evolves and has evolved, and that's why the way we calculate zakat is also evolving. Simple and calculated options for paying zakat. This is the idea is that there's a simple way to do this if you want to save time and do ihsan, and the calculated option is more intricate and more involved and more precise as well. We'll talk about the different investment types that are available and that are commonly used by people. And then also, of course, we will talk about investment accounts, the investment accounts that are also commonly used as vehicles for people's investment types. The idea of an investment account is these types are what go inside the investment accounts. First, we'll discuss the types individually. What's the stock and how do you calculate zakat on it, ETFs, etc. And then how do the accounts, when these investment types reside in certain accounts, how do we then view them for the purposes of zakat? Let's get into it. Zakatable wealth. What is zakatable wealth? It has a few conditions, like the scholars mentioned in the books of fiqh, and this is an area of large consensus between the scholars. It is something that you must have complete ownership of and accessibility. What they say is istiqraruhu, means it is something that you own fully and it is something that you are able to access. Number two is it meets the nisab. Nisab is an important term here that is used whenever we talk about zakat, which is the minimum amount of wealth a person must have for the entirety of the lunar year. If the amount of wealth dips below that, then there is no zakat. And if the amount of wealth remains above it for the duration of the year, that is when zakat is due. And then zakat, or excuse me, nisab was classically determined by the what's called naqdain, gold and silver. And there's a disparity in the price of the two now, a very severe disparity. As you can see, the nisab of gold is closer to $7,000. The nisab of silver is $630, which means is that if your amount, you're free to pick whichever one you want, inshallah. But if the amount, if you were to say, I will take the gold nisab, then your value, the amount of money you've had for the whole lunar year, that is zakatable. This is the idea behind the nisab. So it must meet the nisab. That's the second condition. The third condition here would be that possession or in possession for a lunar year. I said someone's saying no voice. Is that okay, or can you hear me? Can you all hear me? I don't. Yes, okay, alhamdulillah. Someone was saying there's no voice, so I just wanted to make sure. All right. In possession for one lunar year. The general rule is that zakat is due if one is above the nisab value, if the wealth is above the nisab value for one complete Islamic year. This is important. The zakat is calculated by the Hijri calendar, the Islamic calendar. This is perhaps why many people pay zakat during Ramadan, because in reality Ramadan is the only lunar month that we care for. Other lunar months, not so much. People might care for Dhul Hijjah because they're going for Hajj. Some people might care for Muharram. Generally, the month that we all care about is Ramadan. So that's perhaps why people pay their zakat in Ramadan, because that's the lunar month that they, intentionally mark every single year. Of course, because of the fasting. Of course, also because it's blessings in Ramadan are multiplied. So perhaps the idea of giving zakat in this time is to multiply our blessings and our reward even further. And this is in line with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, who would be kana ajwad an-nasi bil khair. He was, as described, the most generous person, and he would be even more generous in Ramadan with helping people. So the reason I'm mentioning this is that you have to keep track of the lunar year, and the easiest month to keep track of in the lunar year is Ramadan. So that is that. Next up, of course, is free from haram income. This is important. Zakat is not due upon earnings that are haram, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet said, Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyiban. Allah is pure and only accepts that is which is pure. Meaning that a person who has a haram income source must do as much as they can, as fast as they can, to seize that source of income. And then after that, sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments about the internet. Khalas, I mean, it seems to be okay, right? All right. So the haram income should be seized as quickly as a person can, and as effectively or as smoothly as a person can. But once but whatever haram income a person may have, they should in fact dispose of it. They should not use it for anything. They should not use it to pay their bills. They should not use it for consumption, because this is something that is impermissible. And if wealth is impermissible for consumption, how can it be zakatable, right? That's the idea there. The idea here is not that a person is like, you know what, I'll just earn haram and that way I have I have no zakat due on me. No, to the contrary, brother. You must seize that and stop using it and give it all away, and then inshallah focus on getting income that is permissible. Okay, so that's the conditions about zakatable wealth. Now let's have some interactive questions. I got sidetracked by the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna request something from people, which is that, like, don't just say like random things in the chat for now, please, because I don't have a second monitor. Usually I do, but today I don't. So I don't know what is going to be happening. If there's like an issue, like the audio is not working, Brother Zaid, I think you just kind of like turn on your video and just kind of give me a prompt or something, and then I'll try to see if I can do something. And questions, please ask them in the QA box, right? That's where the QA section is. That is where you should be asking your questions, inshallah. Okay, is that okay, people? You can respond to my saying yes or no. All right, very good. Great. Now here is, I'm gonna ask some questions, and I want you to like answer with yes or no in the slide. All right. Brazil, can everybody see the number of participants that we have, or is this like a closed, like it's unable, people are unable to see?
I don't believe people can see how many attendees there are, but they are able to chat with each other. That's correct.
Okay. All right, great. Alhamdulillah. Excellent. All right, so let's get started with the questions here. All right, so can't see participants. Okay. All right, is zakat due on cash? Yes or no? What do you people think? Type yes or no, please. Of course, zakat is due on cash. Excellent. What about gold and silver? And here I have gold bullions that are used for the purposes of investment more than the purposes of wearing. I mean, I don't see people wearing gold bullions around their neck or something, right? The correct answer is yes as well. Excellent. Okay, what about a house? Some people are saying the house that you live in, no. So Good. That is the answer that we're looking for. A house, there is no zakat on it. There is, in fact, as we learned today, most of the property a person will own, there is no zakat on it. Not even an investment property, as we'll learn. Okay, zakat is due on the income, not the property. We'll get to that, but the correct answer is no zakat. Excellent, very good. What about a car or cars? Excellent. We have people who are saying no zakat on cars. That is the correct answer. Okay. What about, imagine if you have a pizza shop or a bakery. Okay. Imagine if you have a bakery. No, there's no zakat on cars. Even if you have 25 cars, doesn't matter. Imagine if you're a baker. Okay. And you have your bakery, and you have, your goods that you use to produce your baked items. Is there zakat? And so this is your business, all right? Is there zakat on the oven in your bakery? What do you think? I'm gonna give a minute for people to think about this. Correct answer is no, not on the oven. Excellent. Because as we will learn, the oven is a fixed asset. Yes, it is a fixed asset, and fixed assets, there are no zakat on it. But what about your source material? For example, the flour. Okay, the flour, the butter, and I don't know what else goes in baking. Sorry. Is there zakat on that? What do you think? You, the baker, the oven, no zakat on it. But what about the source materials that you use to manufacture your goods, like your bread and whatnot? What do you think? This is where we have some contention. Some people are saying no, some people are saying yes, but the Khalid, mashallah, jazakallah khairan, says, I don't know. No worries. The correct answer here is yes, zakat will be due on it. In fact, zakat is due on the source materials, what they called al-mawad. Okay, the source materials that are used to produce goods, zakat is due on it, but not on the alat, not on the tools, not on the fixed assets. Okay, this is how a business person can calculate the zakat, and this is important for us to recognize, because we are going to talk about investments as a type of a business. Okay, so let's proceed with that, inshallah. Let's proceed with the next slide. Thank you for participating, you all. Zakat is paid on 4 main categories of wealth. All right, cattle and livestock. Okay, this is the one category, and it depends on the type of animal. We're not going to get into that because I don't think any of you own cattle or livestock. Okay. Crop yield is for farmers. Okay, and zakat is due 10% if your farm is irrigated naturally, and 5% is if you are artificially irrigating it. Also something that doesn't apply to us, because I don't think any of us are here are farmers. But the last two categories do apply: cash, gold, and silver. 2.5%. 2.5% is the zakat on cash, gold, and silver. This is called a naqdain in the books of fiqh. Okay, and lastly, of course, is what's called urud al-tijara, business commodities, products sold to make money. Okay, and we will break this down into two categories here, or two subcategories. Current assets, known as short-term assets. They are considered liquid and are subject to zakat at the full 2.5%. Fixed assets, considered illiquid, or also called as long-term assets, and they are exempt from zakat. And this is the example that we gave previously. Okay, the bakery, you're the baker. Okay, you don't have to pay zakat on the equipment in the store, not the building that you have, for your shop. You don't pay zakat on the sign in front of your building. Nothing. All of those are considered to be long-term assets, and if Islamically, like in terms of fiqh, they're considered to be alat. There are no zakat on that. Okay, whereas you would pay zakat on the materials, the flour, for example, or other things that you use to manufacture your goods, and the profits. Of course, everything that we say here, you have to pay zakat on. It means that you've had that stuff for the whole year. Okay, you've had that for the whole year, and it is above the nisab. Are you all with me? Is this part clear? Type yes or one if it's clear, inshallah. Excellent, alhamdulillah. So this is how zakat breaks down for the assets that we have. Zakat is not due on. Zakat is not due on. If I can get to the next slide, inshallah, hopefully today. Not paid on loans payable. Okay, meaning money you borrowed from somebody, you don't pay zakat on that money because that's someone else's money. However, the long-term loan a person may have, they like a mortgage or something, they should include a year's worth of loan only as the amount that they don't pay zakat on. The rest of the money should not be factored in. But this is actually more about if you're calculating zakat overall. In investments, we're not going to talk too much about this. Okay, this is I think for the next workshop that is NZF will present to you all, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, residential or investment property, zakat is not paid on residential or investment property. This is very important. Okay, this is something that in Islam, zakat is restrictive in nature, meaning it's restricted to a certain amount of categories, and everything else is excluded. Properties are excluded by default. Okay, properties are excluded by default from zakat. Now, if there's a person who's using properties like a business commodity, that's a different question. But by default, it is excluded. Are you all with me? Okay, this is something similar to, for example, the scholars discuss horses. Okay, if you notice that we talked about cattle in Islam, in fiqh, we call bahimatul an'am, cattle, but the horses are not cattle. Okay, and horses are extremely valuable, way more valuable than a goat or a sheep or even a camel, right? But the ulama say no zakat on horses because it's not bahimatul an'am. Zakat is restrictive. We don't expand zakat into anything that we see as valuable. Okay, horses are valuable, no zakat on that. Cars are valuable, no zakat on that. Houses are valuable, no zakat on that. Gold is valuable, but there's zakat on it because it's included in that list. This is very critical, inshallah, for us to understand, to have the correct understanding of why certain things are included and certain things are excluded. Okay, important, inaccessible wealth. If you cannot access your money, you don't pay zakat on it. This is one of the conditions for zakat, istiqrarul mal. If you don't have money that is with you and accessible to you, you don't pay zakat on it until it becomes accessible. All right. And similarly, as I mentioned here, precious metals, cars, etc., no zakat on it. Why? Because restrictive nature of zakat has restricted it to the 4 categories. All right. Now, when we are talking about zakat, and we talk about zakat on investments, yes, these are new instruments. These are instruments that did not exist in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, they did not exist for most of our history as an ummah. These are instruments that have recently appeared. Some, like gold and silver, has been around since the beginning of time, but I'm talking about investment instruments like stocks, like stock type products like ETFs and mutual funds, the accounts. These are new things, and they vary from country to country. What we have in Canada is not what they have in America. Okay, for example, in terms of investment accounts. So what has to be done is the question has to be asked: what are the investments analogous to? Remember, there were the 4 categories. You had the cattle, you had the livestock, you had cash, gold, silver, and you had business commodities. So we will say, well, zakat on investments is like one of these last 2. It's either like cash, gold, or silver, or it's either like a business commodity, product that a person sells to make money. And that is why we should pay zakat on our investments. Okay. even though the investment, like the stock, is not one of the 4 things listed here, it is analogous to one of the 4 things, and that is why we will include it and give zakat on it. Okay, are you people with me? Is this part clear? This is very critical for us to lay the foundation. All right, alhamdulillah, I'm glad. You can type yes, you can type 1. I want you all to keep participating with me, inshallah. And again, the questions should go in the QA box, please. Jazakumullah khairan. Okay, continuing on. Some guiding principles, some questions we'll ask ourselves to give us, a way to, some principles to arrive at how and what to pay zakat on when it comes to our investments. Here are some questions. Is the investment fully accessible, partially accessible, or inaccessible? That's question number 1. Question number 2, did you voluntarily contribute to it? Okay, or was this an involuntary contribution taken from you whether you wanted to or not? Okay, number 3, what does the investment resemble most closely? Is it like cash, gold, and silver, or is it like a business commodity? The difference will become obvious in a minute, inshallah. And of course, lastly, are you living off your investment, or are you building your investment? Okay, this is another question. It's a guiding principle that allows us to figure out how do we view zakat and how do we, calculate zakat on it. I'll show you examples of this. Don't worry, we're going to come back to these slides again and again to apply them to different types of investment accounts. Here is an application of this when it comes to the investment accounts. Okay, now we're going to talk about investment accounts. Here is an example of where you did not voluntarily contribute, and you can access your investment. That money is not zakatable. Okay, no zakat on that money. What is an example of that? The pension plan. All of us pay CPP. Okay, all of us pay CPP. Okay, I'm gonna again request you don't just come here and front load your questions. Wait for me to get to RRSPs. I'll talk about this in a lot of detail. The slides are extensive. And then after that, if you have questions, you can ask questions. Okay, and then if you want to ask questions, ask in QA. All right, it's important to have this process in place, inshallah. Okay, now you don't have CPP. All of us who work, we pay CPP. We don't contribute to it voluntarily. We don't have access to it. So definitely no zakat on it. It doesn't matter how much a pension you've accumulated. Okay, and all pensions by and large are like this. They are largely inaccessible and largely involuntary. So you are not paying zakat on that. Now, what about the opposite of the scenario, right? You voluntarily contributed and you have full access. Okay, that means the entire amount is subject to zakat. The entire amount. The example of this is a TFSA. TFSA is a tax-free savings account. That's an investment bucket. You can put in it whatever investment type, stocks, mutual funds, gold, silver, whatever you want in it. Okay, there's like a list. Actually, not whatever you want, whatever the list allows. Okay, and anything in this bucket you voluntarily put, and you have access to it at all times. You can take it out whenever you want. Okay, because it's fully accessible, fully voluntary, 100% subject to zakat. Are you with me, people? If you voluntarily contributed and can access the investments partially, not fully, partially, you can access the investment, then the portion that can be collected after subtracting taxes and penalties is subject to zakat, is zakatable. Okay, this is the example of a self-directed RRSP. You voluntarily put money in there. Okay, and you don't have access to all of it, but you have access to some of it. Okay, partially you can access your investment. Okay, when I say partially, meaning that if you were to try to take all of it out, you will lose a lot of it in taxes and whatnot, right? So we will say partially is accessible to you. So the portion that's accessible to you is what you pay zakat on. All right, these are, again, we're trying to use our guiding principles to kind of map our major investment vehicles. Where do they go? Pensions, exclude them. TFSA, fully included. RRSP, somewhere in the middle. because a self-directed one particularly, self-directed RRSP in the middle because you can access it partially even though you contributed to it voluntarily. And then finally, you have something where you voluntarily contribute, but you cannot access the investment, as in like you cannot, cash it out. And if you were to try to cash it out, there are situations where either you have to give back money or you will be penalized, or in certain setups, you can't even do it at all. Okay. Then there are some details to explore, and that is where RESPs fall in. RESP is a registered educational saving program. That's a government program. It's again a bucket. Okay, and the way it works is the government contributes, you contribute, and the government contributes according to a set of criteria, and this money is meant to be there for the children of the person who's contributing, so they can go to a post-secondary institution. There's rules about who can withdraw. Okay, there's rules about how much you can withdraw, and there is rules about when is the investment accessible. For example, RESP, if you have the contribution part, which is from the parents, then you have the government part, that's the grant, then you have the investment growth part, that if the investment is growing, that's a third piece. Each of these pieces have separate rules, okay, of how to access. For example, I close the slides for a second. For example, the parent cannot access the grant money. Only the child can access the grant money. You see? So because of the complicated nature of this RESP bucket, we have to discuss the more details here. Does that make sense to people? Yes or one if it makes sense. Two or no if it doesn't make sense. Why we've made these guiding principles, remember how we're trying to apply them. 1.5. I like that. Good. Hopefully you'll go from 1.5 to 1 soon, inshallah. But I appreciate your honesty. Okay, very good. Alhamdulillah. Let's proceed. Let's keep up going and let's take some examples. Okay. By the way, this is in compliance with the International Islamic Fiqh Academy. This is their, these guiding principles are in accordance with their materials that they have published. Again, keep in the big picture in mind. Zakat, why are we doing this? What is the need for this? Why do you have this big book in front of you? What's with the slide deck? Well, because money and investment instruments evolve over time. Okay, 5 years ago, we didn't have investment instruments that exist today, like NFTs, for example. And in another 5 years, we'll have other investment instruments that will exist as also, right? So this evolves over time. And that is why Zakatul Mal evolves over time, because Mal is evolving. So Zakatul Mal will also evolve. Okay, that's the big picture. I want you to keep that in mind. And speaking of the big picture, and this is something, this is our deen allows for this. Our deen allows for you to take a big picture, simplistic view of the rituals, or take a nuanced, calculated approach to the rituals. Both of the things are there. You take whatever, suits you. What's the simple option of calculating zakat? It's exactly as it sounds, simple. You take the value of all your investments, all your cash, all your gold, okay? You add it all up into one large sum. You take 2.5% of that amount and you pay that as zakat. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah accept from you. Okay, that is the simplest option. What would happen when you do this? You will definitely pay more zakat than you are required to, right? You will pay it's either going to be exactly the amount that you have required, that you're required to pay, or you have paid more. Okay, it's one of those two. You will not pay less than what you are owed in zakat, what you owe, in zakat. This is akin to doing ihsan. There's a man who came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said to the Prophet ﷺ, here is my zakat, right? He asked the Prophet ﷺ, what is my zakat? The Prophet ﷺ said to him, your zakat, because of the camels you have, is a type of a camel that is doesn't give milk. Okay, this is like, from the zakat of how camels are calculated. This man said, Ya Rasulullah, how is this camel beneficial to you, or to like, as in like to the Baytul Mal, when it doesn't even give milk. I will give a camel that is going to give milk and it's young and it can produce more offspring. Okay, so he's giving a camel that's higher value than that zakat camel that was due on him. Okay, and then the Prophet ﷺ accepted that from him and made dua for him, and this was an act of goodness from this man. The point from this example is that it is good to give more than what a person more zakat than a person owes, because it is from min bab al-ihsan, doing excellence. And as the Quran says, hal jaza'ul ihsani illa al-ihsan, the reward of goodness is only goodness, right? You do excellence and goodness and Allah will reward you with even more excellence and even more goodness. So this is the way we talk about the simplest option. You do this, alhamdulillah, things are easy. You have paid as much as you owe or more, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept from you, inshallah, and give you more goodness. All right, now simplest option is out of the way. But now let's talk about the calculated option for paying zakat on investment. This is the one that we will spend our time on, because if you want to calculate, perhaps you don't want to overpay by that much. You want to calculate and you want to be fair. Alhamdulillah, you want to do good, but you also want to be fair and whatnot. And there's nothing, in fact, the Quran and Sunnah would encourage that. So how do we do this? We will break it down by the investment account, right? We spoke about this briefly before, but I'll come back to this at the very end, right? The investment account types, TFSAs, RRSPs, etc., etc. Okay, but then we also need to talk about investment type, because an investment account can hold different investment types in it. Okay, so we will talk about this, and this is the thing that we will focus on for the next few minutes, inshallah ta'ala, for the next 10 odd minutes, inshallah ta'ala, here. Okay, let's talk about investment types. What are investment types? We have stocks as an investment type, ETFs, and mutual funds. ETFs are it's short for exchange traded fund. This is something that is a collection. A mutual fund is a collection of stocks. ETF is generally you have a index. An index is a collection of stocks tracking their collective price, and an ETF basically attaches itself to that index. Okay, so these are, as I said, these are not the most complicated investment types, because they are freely accessible and everybody in retail purchases them, but there is quite a little bit of a layer of complexity that these add to just the investment. And if you add a layer of complexity to the investment, you're also adding that to if you are calculating or when you're calculating zakat. So stocks and ETFs, these are investment types. We also have bonds. Okay, bonds are a type of a loan that you give either to the government or to certain other firms, and they pay you interest on it. And then the face value of your bond is accessible when the bond matures. Property is an investment type, of course. Precious metals are an investment type. Crypto is an investment type. Indeed it is. A few years ago, they would always have a discussion, hey, is this even halal? Today we're like, yeah, totally halal, bro. And NFTs shows you how the conversation has evolved, huh? All right, let's talk about investment accounts. Let's talk about quickly just a summary of these investment accounts. These are the ones as Canadians we have access to. This would be pension. So CPP and LIRA are types of pension accounts. Retirement funds, self-directed or group RRSPs. Education funds, a RESP. The R is always for registered, registered retirement saving plan, etc. Okay, and the TFSA. These are the investment accounts. That's where the investment types, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, bonds, that's where they go in, and they stay in this bucket, the RESP bucket or the TFSA bucket. That's how it works. We have to understand both things for us to understand how to calculate zakat on it. And as I said, the simplest option is 2.5%, but here is the calculator option. Let's start with the most fundamental, stocks. Okay, the most fundamental of these options is stocks. What does a stock resemble most closely? Is it cash or is it a business commodity? What do you all think? One for cash, two for business commodity. I'm seeing some people saying we seem to have a healthy split of 1 and 2s. Very nice. Very nice. I like that. Okay. Now, here's the beauty. It depends. How do you want to see it? It depends on you. It depends on you. Do you see your stock as like cash? If the answer is yes, alhamdulillah, calculate its value and pay its zakat like it's cash. If you see it as a business commodity, calculate its value and pay its zakat as if it's a business commodity. It's completely up to you. That's the beauty of the calculated option here for us. So how do I calculate zakat on cash? Zakat on stocks if I see them as cash. In my eyes, my stock assets are like cash. Okay, the people who said 1 in the chat. Okay, this is a very simple way of calculating zakat, right? It's the market value of the asset. You ignore all the costs that are that went into like purchasing like the stock itself, the fees or whatnot. You take the number of shares you have in a company and you find out its value today. Okay, and on its value today you calculate zakat 2.5% and you pay it. Here is an example, okay, of this. The example of this is we look at Suncor, right? Suncor is a Canadian company. Its stock price is $31.76 last Friday. That's what it closed on. Okay, and say you own 1,000 shares of Suncor. How much, people? Let's see if you can type the answer to this. What is the total value of your Suncor holding? What's the total value of your Suncor holding? Ahsant, brother Arshad Saeed. Very nice. Saeed Qadri as well. Excellent. The correct answer, of course, is the total current value of your holding is 31,760, right? The zakat on this is 2.5%. So to calculate that, you take this amount, 31,760, multiply that by 2.5%, that's 0.025, and you get zakat payable as $794, right? Now, this is the zakat. If you were to say sell a bunch of shares, if you were to sell say 25 shares from Suncor, you will be able to cover your zakat. That's the idea behind it. You can pay from it like by liquidating the asset and paying the money in zakat, or you can just pay it from your savings, whatever one you want. But the idea of this is that you're treating it like cash, so you can always liquidate that and give the zakat accordingly. Okay, this is important. Now, what if you were to say, well, no, I see my investments as a business commodity. At the end of the day, it is a business, right? Suncor is a business, and I own a part of that business. That's what us owning a stock means, correct? So no, I see it as a business commodity. Okay, so then I take my current assets. I have current assets and I have fixed assets. Okay, and what I do is I pay zakat only on the percentage of your investment that is comprised of current assets. Okay, the bakery example, only the flour and the bread that was sold and other materials, not the oven, not the building, not the sign in front, nothing. Okay, so how do we determine this, right? How do we determine this? This is obviously more accurate. This is a lot more precise but it is a little bit more tedious to compute. Let's look at this, okay? So here is the formula. The formula is you take the total current assets. This is available on the balance sheet of a company, right? This is available on if you look at the balance sheet of a company here, this is for example for Cisco, right? Under the balance sheet, you will find total current assets right there. Okay, that is what you're looking for, total current assets. That is that value right there. Okay, and then the market cap would be something under like summary. You see the market cap right there. You see, so that is dividing the total current assets by the market cap will give you the amount of the company that you pay zakat on. Okay, the zakatable portion of your holding. All right, let's take an example because that will make things easier for us. The example here again is Suncor. Suncor's price is 31.76. Okay, and then you have 1,000 share that you own here. The value of your holding, so Suncor holding is 31,760. But now I look at Suncor's total current assets. Okay, in fact, let's do that right now. I'll look for Suncor here. Suncor Energy. Is this in the TSX? I think so. Okay. I look at financials and I see under the balance sheet that their total current assets are 10,977. 10,977. That's 10.977 billion. Okay. Then I look at their market cap. The market cap for Suncor, if you look it up, it will be $57.9 billion. Okay. And then if I was to now compute, I will divide the total current assets by the market cap. Then I will multiply that amount by the total amount, the total value of my Suncor holdings, which is 31,760. And then from that, I will multiply, or I will figure out my zakat, 2.5% of that amount. And that gives me $150.53. Is this more than or less than paying the face value? Paying it like cash, more or less? It's less, way less, in fact. Thank you, Brother Khalid. Right? It is way less. Okay. This is, yes, USD, Suncor and USD. Yes. Okay. This is way less. Correct. Yeah, because Suncor is also the TSX. Sorry. This is Suncor in the USD. Okay. In fact, if you were to do the difference, right, when you pay it as if it's cash, when you pay it as if it is cash, this is the amount as if it is cash, right? That's the amount as if it's cash, 794. This is the amount as if it is a business commodity. You see the difference between the two? Quite stark. In fact, you are only paying 18.95% of the company's of your total holdings value. You're only taking 18.95% of it into consideration when calculating your zakat. That's that ratio right there. 10.977 divided by 57.9 billion, the total current value divided by total current assets. That's the amount, or that's the ratio that you get. Okay. Who chooses, or how will it be chosen? There should be one solid Islamic law. There is one solid Islamic law. Don't you worry. Okay. But who chooses? You choose, because it's your zakat and you calculate. That's the question. How do you view it? That's why I emphasize you. How do you see your investments? Do you see your investments? And again, I'll go back to this for a second here, just to give people the idea. Maybe I'll just escape and go back here. Do you view your investment as cash? Do you? And if you do, you take it on face value, the value of your holdings. Or do you view it as a business commodity? That's a question you have to answer. Okay, I'm here to tell you, here are the options that you have, inshallah. All right. So this is the thing. I'll just take one question here. That's what if it can be, liquidated at any time? Should it be considered as cash all the time? Again, depends. This is an investment type stock, right? Sometimes liquidating it does not mean you have access to it, as we will see if this is an investment account like an RRSP or an RESP. Liquidating it does not automatically mean you have access to it. So that's another consideration. Does that make sense? Inshallah. If it makes sense, say yes or type 1. All right, alhamdulillah, thank you. So this is that, right? We'll just recap our example here of our zakat. If you calculate it as a business commodity, you are paying much lesser, only 18.95%, right? As much. And this is, to be honest, for some people, this is important because they're like, what, maybe my portfolio is very large, but I don't access my portfolio. I don't see my portfolio of investments like cash sitting in my bank account. I see it more like a business commodity. I see it more like a house that I'm building, and I'm going to live off the rent of that house. Okay, fair enough. Now you can calculate more precisely and pay lesser zakat while also being correct, inshallah ta'ala. And while your zakat is also acceptable on the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by using this calculated method, inshallah. Okay, that's why it's important to have these discussions. Okay, let's talk about ETFs. And again, ETFs and mutual funds are not just one stock, they're a collection of a bunch of stocks, right? So what does that look like? It is very difficult to calculate the current assets for each underlying security. This is hard, right? ETFs sometimes have 200, 300, securities in them. That's a lot. It's a lot of looking up values. Okay, so treating it as cash is the simplest way. Treating an ETF as a cash is simplest and most effective. But a ballpark figure for current assets is about 30%. This is according to Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj. Okay, but 30% is considered to be that. Let's look at this for a second here. Okay, again, the example will make things clear for you. Let's take SPUS. SPUS is a ETF. That's the halal version of the S&P 500. Its price is $30.10. Okay, people. Say I owe 1,000 shares of SPUS. Okay, what is the value of my SPUS holding right now? What do you think, people? What is it? What is the value of my... thank you. I like you guys to kind of like stay with me. I know that, it's hard to type numbers and whatnot. Just want to listen. But there's a point to being engaged, inshallah. Like I'm trying to make sure that you all are on board, and this is not like a monologue here. Okay, it's somewhat of a dialogue. Okay, so the current value of the holdings is 30,100 exactly. Zakat on this would be... Oh, you're driving? No problem. Please don't type on the driving, inshallah. All right. Now, if you treat your ETF like cash, if you treat your ETF like cash, you will take 2.5% of it, and that is your zakat, $752.50. Are you with me? If you treat it as a business commodity, current asset, okay, you say, well, 30% of the ETF is really zakat eligible, or zakat is due on 30% of it because that is the short-term assets that the company has, and that's what I need to pay zakat on. And that multiplied by the 30,000 gives you an amount, which is literally 30% of this. Multiply that by 2.5%, and you are left with 225.75. Again, that's 70% less. Now I want to show you something here. Okay, people, I want to show you something here that I was working on. Okay, so this is right here. This right here is the holdings for SPUS. Okay, the holdings for SPUS. This is their holdings, right? So you look at the top, I guess what, 15 names. The top 15 names are about 50% of this ETF. Okay, and these are the names: Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Tesla, Nvidia, Johnson Johnson, etc. Okay, is this clear what this is? This is an ETF called SPUS. This is what the ETF is called, SPUS. Okay. How many of you have bought SPUS or hold SPUS? Just out of curiosity. One if you do. Okay, one. Some people have never heard of it. Okay, no problem. Okay, and lots of no's. Okay, so this is an ETF, right? Look at what it's called. Sharia Industry Exclusions ETF. They have taken out of this, S&P 500 are like the top 500 companies, in America, and they have taken out the impermissible companies in this S&P 500. Okay, like the banks and the arms manufacturers, and then they're left with all these companies. They're left with about 210 odd companies. Okay, that's the companies that are considered to be from the S&P 500 that are Sharia compliant. Now, if you purchase this ETF and you want to calculate how much of my zakat, right? Remember, how much of my what percentage of zakat am I paying here, right? Here is an example. Here is the market cap. Okay, here is the market cap for Apple. All right, and here is the if I go under Apple, right? Let me just show you. Okay, if I go under Apple here and I search for their financials, okay, and I look at their balance sheet, okay, the total current assets of Apple are 134,836 and many zeros after that. All right, that's the total current assets. Divide by that by their market cap, which is 2.5 trillion. Yes, and now you're left with actually 5.34%. So what that means is that if you had 100 shares of Apple, okay, and they're priced at 154, you're only paying 5.34% of those 100 shares, and the value of those 100 shares is what zakat is due on. Okay, and for Microsoft it's 8.78%, for Google is 10.95%, for Tesla is 3.3%, right? The largest figure we have is Cisco, right? Cisco is at 17%. It's way less than the 30% that we're telling you. In fact, if you did this for all of the holdings in SPUS, you would find all of them are under the 30% threshold. Okay, so what I'm trying to get to you is this is a safe method of calculating your zakat on ETFs and mutual funds, because their current assets are no more than 30%. In fact, much lesser than 30% of the company's value. Does that make sense for people? This is a lot, but this is an important point. This is an important point on how do you calculate precisely your zakat. So the brother Khan is saying that we will always choose to avoid or pay less. Yes, you can choose. You can use to pay less. It's not that you are paying less than you are required. You're not paying less than what's required. You're paying lesser of the two options. Both of them are above what's required or at what's required. You see? So that's not a problem. Wallahu alam. And as I said, if you were to pay more, alhamdulillah, it's ihsan, and may Allah reward you for that. Okay. Continuing on to our next slide. Bonds. Okay, bonds are impermissible, particularly the way that the bonds that we have accessible here in Canada and America. bonds, they pay the primary way that you make money from a bond is through the interest. Okay, and that's why it is not advisable to purchase them or hold them as investments. Stocks are not, they don't pay interest; they pay dividends. That's a share of the profits. Questions are in the QA, please. Yes. They pay dividends, or their value goes up depending on sentiment or their earnings and whatnot. So they're completely different than a bond. Bond, unfortunately, is not like that, and a bond is an interest-bearing commodity, and which is why it is impermissible to hold it as an investment. Okay. Property. Okay. The house you reside in is not subject to zakat. Repeat after me. The house you reside in is not subject to zakat. Okay. The rental property is not subject to zakat either. You own a house, you're renting it out, mashallah. May Allah reward you. In the GTA now, this is a pipe dream for most people. To first actually have a house is a pipe dream. Having a house under investment property, mashallah. But imagine you're in that situation. Okay, the value of your house, the rental property, there is no zakat on it. You pay zakat on the rental income minus expenses, and if that rental income you saved for a year and it's above the nisab. Are you with me? So imagine, just for a minute, that I'm rich. I have a house that I own that's worth $1 million. Do I pay zakat on that? Yes or no? I live in that house. No zakat on it. Thank you. Imagine now I'm richer, alhamdulillah. And I also own another house that is worth $1 million that I rent to a person or a family, excuse me. Do I pay zakat on that second property that's $1 million? Not at all. People are saying, yes, no, brother, no zakat on investment property. I have rented this house to this person for $2,000. Okay. That is $24,000 of income that I'm getting. All right. Now, I have $24,000 of income that I'm getting from this house. Assume my expenses, property taxes, maintenance are about $4,000. And assume that this is a paid off house. I don't have a mortgage. Okay. So I'm making $20,000 a year of income. And I have saved this money. Is there zakat on the rental income that I have made? $20,000. Perfect. Yes, there's zakat due on that. Is there zakat on the value of the house, $1 million? Yes or no? No. Allahu Akbar. Exactly. That's a key point for us to understand, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan for being such excellent participants. Alhamdulillah. Of course, if I bought a house, right? If I bought the house and I'm like, I don't know what I will do with it. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to rent it. I'm not sure if I'm going to live in it. I just bought it. Okay. Sounds like a pipe dream for many people. But this is true in many parts of the world. Okay. Then there is no zakat until you know what you're doing with it. No zakat. Imam Ahmad says about a person, and I really like his statement. He's like, وَلَا زَكَاةَ فِي الْعَقَارِ. He's like, properties and buildings don't have any zakat. وَلَوْ فَرَّ مِنَ الزَّكَاةِ. Even if this person is doing this with the evil intention of not paying zakat. He's like, you know why? Because Allah knows his intention and Allah will hold this person accountable. Okay? But in terms of the rulings of fiqh, we cannot impose something on this person that is not supposed to be imposed on them. Okay, we're not going to impose upon them zakat when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Sharia does not mandate that. If they're doing this for an evil intention, Allah will catch this person on the day of judgment. We don't have to worry about this. Okay, that's an important point. Zakat is paid, especially here in America and Canada, in countries where the government doesn't interfere with our religious practices or does not come and collect zakat. This is a personal decision. Okay, so we are at the end, Allah is going to hold us accountable for this. But this particular situation of properties, if a person has no intention, it by default has no zakat until you figure out what you're doing with it. Okay, so this is very important, inshallah, to understand when it comes to properties. But what if the property, now here is the only scenario where a property might be subject to zakat. Okay, if a person's intent is to make money from the house, so they're buying a house and they're flipping this house, maybe renovating it, maybe just buying it and waiting for its value to go up and then selling it afterwards, then this is now a business commodity. Then this is now like a business commodity. Would you agree with that? If you're using the house as a business commodity, something you're buying and selling for the purpose of making money from that transaction, and explicitly that, in that case, it is subject to zakat. Of course, does not apply to the house you reside in. Okay, if a person is like, you know what, I'm going to sell this, and then but say like the zakat is due in already, say like they put the house up for sale and it doesn't sell for a year. Impossible in the GTA, but imagine. Right, you wait until the sale is complete, and then from the proceeds of the sale, from that you pay zakat. Even if it's delayed, this is okay, because this is how business is. Sometimes cash flow is tight, right? So in that situation, you can pay zakat once you have the cash in hand, and there's no problem with that, inshallah. But the point here, the only time a property which is exempt from zakat becomes eligible for zakat is when you start to treat it like a business commodity. Okay, so that is that. Alhamdulillah, I hope this makes sense. I spent some time on this because I really wanted to make sure this part is clear. Okay, precious metals. Oh, my slide got messed up a little bit. Tell me yes or no. Is there zakat on bullion, gold, bullion, and silver that you're holding as investments? Yes or no? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Yes, excellent. Alhamdulillah. For purposes of investment, gold and silver as bullions, yes. What about jewelry? Zakat on jewelry of women and even men, depends on that, but say women particularly. Yes or no? Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. But Abdurrahman says very well, depending on the madhab. The sister Naila says it is worn if worn regularly. Excellent. I like this. What about diamonds? Is there zakat on diamonds? Yes or no? The correct answer is no zakat on precious stones like diamonds. Okay, what about like a precious watch? A Rolex can be sometimes more expensive than a person's car. Zakat on that? What do you think? No zakat on that either. Why? What's the reasoning? Can someone tell me? I mentioned this before. Why are we excluding such precious items from zakat? Because zakat is what? It's not cash good, but I used a word, starts with R. I'm gesturing something. It's restrictive. Thank you. Very nice. It is restrictive. It is limited to a few categories. Everything else is excluded, even if it is valuable. These things are valuable, but they're not included in what zakat is due upon. Okay, and this is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now you look at zakat, precious metals, gold and silver bought for investment purposes, you pay zakat by consensus of the scholars. Okay, bullions, coins, bars, okay, etc. Okay, precious, other precious metals, gems, stones, diamonds, no zakat on it. Even if they're precious, even if they're valuable, no zakat on it. We're only talking about gold and silver and not other materials. Okay. But what about jewelry? That's where there was some disagreement in the chat. In fact, the disagreement in the chat is because there is a disagreement among the scholars. The Hanafi position is pay zakat on all jewelry. It doesn't matter whether you wear it, you don't wear it, you put it as an heirloom in like a locker. It doesn't matter. You pay zakat on all jewelry. Okay, how many of you follow the Hanafi position here, or have historically followed that? Very good, excellent, ahsantum. It's quite a few people who are following the Hanafi position, which is in fact a lot of what people do around the world. Excellent, jazakumullah khairan, may Allah accept. Okay, the Shafi'i, Hanbali, and the Maliki position here is no zakat on worn jewelry. Okay, fi huliyil mar'a or huliyat nisa, like they say, it is what ma yulbas adatan, what is worn, customarily or habitually. Okay, now how do you define that? That's up to you, right? If you wear your jewelry, for a party, or you wear your jewelry for, like, say, a gathering or something, that's really customary. It's not like something you wear daily. Okay, that's not what they're necessarily qualifying. They're saying it's generally worn. Okay, you figure out what that means to you. Okay, but at the end of the day, if there is jewelry that's worn customarily, then they say exclude that jewelry from zakat. You are free to pick whichever opinion you want. How many of you follow the Shafi'i, Hanbali, and the Maliki position here? Very good. We have Sir Naila who's saying that. Nobody else? Okay, I do too. All right, very good. So that's good. Okay, a few of us are here following this position as well. I believe this is the position. This is the position that I follow. Alhamdulillah. Either way, you're free to choose whatever one you want. Okay, continuing on with other investment types, cryptocurrencies. Allahu Akbar. Maybe you hold some crypto, and today you are regretting because it's down a lot. Okay, but maybe you're not regretting. Either way, you treat cryptocurrencies as cash, and you pay zakat on the full amount held. If you have fees and whatnot, you can deduct the fees, but whatever liquid amount you will have in crypto, you will pay that, or you will consider that as zakat eligible. Again, the idea here is you take all of your investment types and you add them up. You take all the stocks, you take all the gold and silver that is for investment purposes, you take all the cryptocurrency, you sum it all up and say, this is my total amount, and the zakat on it is this much, and this is what I'm going to pay. Okay, so that is crypto. Now finally, NFTs. NFTs are called non-fungible tokens. Last year we did this. People were not sure what NFTs is. I'm sure today people know what NFTs are. But if just to make sure, how many people don't know what NFTs are? Just say yes or one if you don't know. Quite a few of you are saying you don't know what they are. Okay, no problem. So an NFT is called a non-fungible token. Okay, what is this fancy thing? What does this fancy word mean? Okay, so a non-fungible token, let me maybe find this for you. A non-fungible token, I have like a small article on this, so I'll read this for you. Okay, it is it's a digital asset that represent real world objects like art, valuables, and videos. Okay, maybe you've heard of NBA Top Shot, right? They take a video and they turn it into a digital asset, and now you can own it. Okay, very interesting. NFTs reside on a blockchain. Okay, blockchain you might have heard of from crypto. Okay, they're not the same as cryptocurrencies though. Okay, NFTs are not the same as crypto because NFTs are non-fungible. Okay, this means that each digital asset is unique in and of itself. Okay, this is why you cannot value NFTs like cryptocurrencies or like currencies. So that said, what are they analogous to? They're not cattle, they're not crops, they're not cash or gold or silver, they're none of those things, but they might be a business commodity, right? They might be a business commodity. That depends on the owner's intention. Okay, so if the owner's intention is to hold an NFT purely as a collectible item, okay, then there is no zakat due on it because they're holding it as a collectible. They're not holding it as a business commodity. However, if their intention is to hold this, its intention is to buy the NFT and then resell it to make a profit, then zakat will be due on 2.5% of the value of the NFT at the end of the lunar year. Just like the house. If you buy a house, you have no intention, no zakat. You buy a house, you live in it, no zakat. You buy a house, you rent it, no zakat on the value of the house. Okay. But if you are buying the house to flip it, to make money from the flip, now that house becomes a trade commodity. Okay. And that is where zakat is due on it. NFT similarly, you buy an NFT because it's a collectible item, no problem, no zakat. Okay. But if you have the intention of reselling it to make a profit out of it, then only it becomes something that zakat is due on. And if your NFT, mashallah, is worth $1 million, Allahu Akbar, may Allah reward you for buying an NFT that's worth $1 million. But if you have an NFT like that, then you perhaps, and you haven't sold it yet, you can wait until you sell your NFT and then give your zakat off that. Okay, because some of these NFTs are extremely valuable. It may shock some of you, but it's true. Okay, so that is the investment types. Okay, the type of investments you can make, and we have discussed this quite a bit. Now let's talk about investment accounts. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to talk about individual investment accounts and how do we calculate zakat in it. So TFSA. TFSA, zakat is due on it because it is fully accessible and you put money in it voluntarily. Full amount is subject to zakat. Okay, so now let's take a second to think about this. Say I have a TFSA account, and in my TFSA account I have 1,000 shares of Suncor. Okay, remember Suncor? That was the company that we calculated its value of, right? Now, all of my holdings in my TFSA are subject to zakat, all of them, okay? But as we calculated before, I want to take the option of my holdings of this stock is, only the current assets I pay zakat on, okay? So that's about 19% of the value of the holdings in the case of Suncor, and that my zakat would be $150 as we discussed or calculated last time, right? So I can go ahead and figure out individual holdings in my TFSA, how much zakat is due per individual holding, right? But the entirety of the TFSA, everything in it, I have to pay zakat on. Is that part clear to you all? Right? The TFSA account, every holding in it, I have to pay zakat on it. How do I pay it? Cash or business commodity? I will figure that out myself. But everything in it, I gotta pay zakat on. Perfect. Alhamdulillah. I'm glad that part's clear. Now let's go to the next one. The next investment account is pensions. Okay, pensions are inaccessible, meaning you cannot access them. They're inaccessible. Anything that's inaccessible, there is no zakat on it. This is the rule. Okay. This is the rule. Well, you might say, well, this is all this money and whatnot. Well, unfortunately, you don't have access to it. And that's the rule, right? If you don't have access, istiqraruhu, right? It's istiqrar, the ability to access it is the prerequisite for it, according to the consensus. So this is why we don't go against the consensus here. So this is why there's no zakat on pension products. Okay, what about RRSPs, retirement funds? And then again, retirement funds, you have self-directed. Self-directed is exactly what it sounds like. You put the money in and you figure out where that money is invested in. Okay, that's your choice completely. Self-directed RRSPs are partially accessible and you voluntarily contribute to it. Okay, so the portion that can be collected after subtracting taxes and penalty is zakat eligible. Let's take the example of my RRSP, self-directed. Imagine I have 1,000 Suncor shares in my RRSP as well. Yes. Now, if I was to take out the value, if I was to liquidate my 1,000 shares and then take it out of my account, I will lose at that point 30% in withholding tax, okay, right away. So I will subtract that 30%. Okay, so let's do the math. I'm going to simplify the numbers just so that it's easier for us. Okay, Suncor, I have 1,000 shares, and then the value of it is say $30. So that is 30,000. Okay, minus 30%. What is that? 30,000 minus 30%. I'm going to pull up my calculator here. Sorry, times 0.7. 9,000. Thank you. Right. So 9,000 I've already lost in withholding taxes. Only 21,000 is left for me that I can access. All right. Now, from that amount, if I treat it as cash, I will say 21,000 zakat on it is what I'll give. Okay. Or if I treat my stock like a business commodity, I again take that 21,000 and multiply that by that ratio, right? That ratio per company. In my case of Suncor, it was 18.95%. I'm going to round it up to 20%. Okay, just to make it easier, it's 4,200. Okay, that's what's left. That's the amount that zakat is due on, and then I calculate finally zakat on that, and then that will come out to about $105. Okay, so you see my zakat in my RRSP account is lesser for the same stock, for the same number of holdings compared to a TFSA. Why? Why is that? Because my RRSP is partially accessible. So I only pay zakat on the amount I can access. Okay? And then I figure out, do I see it as cash or do I see it as a business commodity? Whereas TFSA, all of it I have access to. As soon as I make up my mind, cash for business commodity, I pay that zakat accordingly. This is part clear, people. Well, alhamdulillah. This is a involved conversation. I'm very happy that you are staying with me. Well, alhamdulillah, right? Here is another interesting consideration. Okay, now because I've been asked this question before, I want to make sure that you all are also aware of this, because some of you might be in this situation. Are you living off your retirement fund? It's a question. Okay, for example, my dad is retired and he lives off his RRSP and whatever pension he gets. Okay, so if I was to ask him, hey, all of your RRSP that you saved, liquidated, and then calculate the zakat on it, and then remove from it the withholding tax, he's probably paying more zakat that he withdraws for his living expenses, right? And this is not far-fetched. Look at the situation. Person has 500,000 RSP. They're withdrawing 35,000 for living expenses. And then here is you subtract the withholding tax, and then the zakat due on it is 8,750. That's so much zakat. That is an enormous amount of zakat that they are paying for someone who is living off of $35,000 a year. You see? So, Ijad says it depends on the tax bracket. No, actually, it depends on how much you withdraw, Brother Ijad. Anything above $30,000 is, or $20,000 is 30%. Okay, and whatnot. Okay, a person would then file for taxes afterwards, and then it would all be like settled according to the tax bracket. But initially, that's how much they will withhold from you. That's why it's called the withholding tax. My point is this: this is 25% of what a person is withdrawing from living expenses. They're paying in zakat. Zakat is meant to be 2.5%, not 25%. You see is the situation clear? Like how this is difficult for a retired person to do? Is that like, do you guys see the picture that I'm trying to paint here? Yes, if you see it. No, if you don't. 1, if you see it. 2, if you don't. Right? And this in reality is not fair to this person, right? So now what's the alternative? How do you view this alternatively? Alternatively, you say, well, consider zakat, consider the RRSP as an investment property. And pay zakat on the withdrawal amount, analogous to rent. Okay, and just to simplify it, you're not taking into consideration anything but the amount you withdraw. Okay, just for simplification purposes. So you withdraw $35,000 a year. it's as if you're receiving $35,000 in cash from your rental property. Then you take the zakat on it and you pay that. Does this make sense to people? For those who are retired, right? This is much fairer. This is much fairer than the particularly harsh situation. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that it makes sense to you all. Alhamdulillah. Again, the deen is here not to yuridullahu bikumul yusra wa la yuridu bikumul usra. Allah wants to make things easy, not hard for you. Yuridullahu an yukhaffifa ankum. Allah wants to lighten your burden. Okay, the Quran and Sunnah are not here to, the zakat's purpose is not to make you poor, it's to alleviate poverty. All right. So this goes to tax a person so much, right? It is going to be too much. Again, it doesn't matter how much they've accumulated, it's about how much they're withdrawing, right? And how much they're living off of. Again, if it's money they're living off of, is separate than if money that is just sitting around and whatnot. Okay, so that is that. Walhamdulillah. Now we go into group RRSPs. We're almost done, inshallah. I know you all have been an amazing audience. Thank you for being here with me. I want to give a lot of time for the QA, so I'm going to wrap it up fast, inshallah. Okay, group RRSPs. Now here is a question. What about group RRSPs? Are they fully accessible, partially accessible, inaccessible? It depends on how it's set up in your company, right? It depends on how it's set up in your company. It's not always the same. Sometimes, a person has no access to it until they leave the company. Okay. Sometimes a person doesn't have access to it even after they have left the company. It's like a period of waiting before it becomes accessible to them. Contribution is largely voluntarily, but there's the company adds to it on their end or matches it in a certain way, right? So let's look at the next slide. Let's look at, before we talk about group RRSP, right? Before we talk about group RRSP, let's talk about RESP and then come back to this, inshallah. Okay, so what is this? Okay, let's look at RESP for a second. Put the group RRSP to the side for a minute. Let's talk about RESP, Registered Education Saving Plan. How many of you have this for your children? Yes, or one if you do. If you have an RESP for your children. So, alhamdulillah, quite a few of you do have an RESP for your children. Alhamdulillah, excellent. Thank you very much. Some of you are sending the answer straight to me. Some of you are sending to everyone. So I'm seeing all of you, mashallah, who are typing. Thank you again for participating in here. Excellent. Jazakumullah khairan. So RESP, is it fully accessible, partially accessible, or inaccessible? The answer here is it is inaccessible. Okay, it is inaccessible. If you, as I mentioned to you earlier, there's those three different types of three different categories of contribution, from the parent, from the government, and then the growth. And these three are accessible to the child, but only the parent contribution is accessible to the parent, and only until only after, the child has become of post-secondary age. Okay, anything before that, then that amount is connected to the grant money. For example, I put money in for RSP for my children. If I was to say today, I want it back, the government will say, okay, we will take our grants back, the matching grants, we will take it back as well. Okay, and then whatever is left of the profit, you could say you can leave the profit in the account, or you can withdraw that as well and pay taxes on it. It's a messy, very, very complicated situation. Okay, it is not at all like a TFSA, which is straightforward, withdraw and is there. It's not even like RRSP, which is straightforward. You withdraw, just deduct a certain amount, and the rest is there. This is messy, messy, messy in almost every circumstance, unless it's the child withdrawing the money. That's when it's straightforward. It's set up this way by design. RESPs, the government has set it up in this way by design, because they're putting money in this pool to help Canadians make sure the children have funds for their post-secondary education. You see, it's set up with this intent. This is why we would say this is inaccessible. I'm not saying it's impossible. Who said it's impossible? I just told you there's a way to do it, but it's extremely messy. Okay, And to do it hypothetically, to get to the amount that zakat is due on is even messier. Okay, so what do we do now? We say it is analogous to damar, right? What is damar? Damar is a type of wealth which I'll show you. This is from the Mawsu'a Kuwaitiyya, Mawsu'a Fiqhiyya Kuwaitiyya. This is the fiqh manual of from that's published, fiqh encyclopedia, published in Kuwait. Okay, so they say اصطلاحا يطلق الفقهاء المال ضمان على المال الذي لا يتمكن صاحبه من استئمانه لزوال يده عنه وانقطاع أمله في عوده إليه. What are they saying? They're saying this type of wealth is the type of wealth where a person, who originally owned that wealth, is unable to access this wealth, in a manner that is acceptable, either because their access is cut off or because they're just like, I've lost hope of receiving this. Again, this is an analogous situation. It's not exactly the same. How do they talk about it? What are the types of money that they call damar? Okay, they say it is al-mal al-maghsoob. Okay, money that was taken from a person, stolen, and then he can't find it. Okay, and she's still waiting for it to be found. Or al-mal al-mafqud. Okay, money that was lost or misplaced. Back in the day, people would bury treasure, right? And then they're like, oh, we can't find it anymore. Or al-mal al-saqit fil bahr. It's like, like a treasure chest that, it fell off a boat, and then you're like, where is it? You're trying to find it and whatnot. Or al-mal al-madfoon في الصحراء إذا نسي صاحبه مكانه ثم تذكر بعد زمان. Or it's like money that this person buried in the desert and then forgot where it was, and then finally afterwards figured out where it was. Okay, so this is some examples they give of damar. Are you with me? Okay, and what they say about damar is, there's three opinions about how you can calculate zakat on damar. Okay, it is considered to be not accessible. It's considered inaccessible, so no zakat until it is accessed. That's the Hanafi position. Second position is cannot be accessed today with fees and penalties. Pay zakat on it only once you have accessed it. As the Maliki position. And then the Shafi'i and the Hanbali position is calculate the zakat on it every year, then pay on all the years when it is accessed. That's the third position. Now, how is this analogous? How is an RESP analogous to damar? Here is how. It is inaccessible, like the money that is buried in the desert. Okay, like the money that's hidden away somewhere. But it's still your money, right? You put it there. You can take it later, right? But there is a barrier between you and it. Okay, that is why we would say it's similar to damar. It's not similar to anything else, like a business commodity by itself, or like a TFSA, which is purely accessible, or even a self-directed RSP. So we say it's analogous to the damar, and then we say because of that you have three options. You can say I will not pay any zakat on it until my child starts to take money from it, and then he pays zakat on it. Perfect. That is the Hanafi position here. Okay. The second position is I will not pay zakat on it, but the moment my child goes to university and can start accessing that money, I will pay on all of the amount once, and that's it. I'm done. All right. So let me give the example. Say a person saved $100,000 in a child's RESP, and just for the sake of making it simple, it's only cash. Okay, it's just cash. Okay. The Hanafi position is you don't pay anything, nothing. Not for year number 3 of the child's age, or the child is 4 years old or 5 years old. No. Once they're in post-secondary and the child withdraws, then the amount they have withdrawn is like the money they have, and then you start paying zakat on that. Okay? Then you start paying zakat on whatever is accessible. The Maliki position in this case, of course, and the child is at that point paying the zakat. Yes, you're right. The Maliki position here is, okay, now wait on the 100,000. Don't pay zakat until the child is 18 years old. And now on the whole 100,000, you, the parent, pay zakat once. And you're done. Okay, this is I'm simplifying it because again, just to give you the difference of positions or difference of opinions here. The third position is every year you calculate. Today it is year number 1 of the child it's 2,000. Year number 2 it's 4,000. Year number 5 it is 10,000. You keep a track every year of how much it is, and you keep calculating every year, and you keep a track of that tally, and then and then you pay on all the years when your child starts to access the money. That's the Shafi'i and the Hanbali position. You are free to pick whichever one you want, but in my opinion, the fairest position here is the position of Imam Malik. Okay, and I'll tell you why. When your child goes to post-secondary institution and they start to get access to the money, okay, the money that they have accessed is now theirs. Okay, now there's going to be a portion of the money after they have started to access it that is now your contribution that now you can access. Say from the 100,000 it is 50,000 that I put, just as an example. Okay, then on that 50, after all these years, after 18 years of contribution, I will pay zakat on that 50 once, and I'm done. And now my child, its ownership is essentially transferred over to my child, and they will take it and they will give it. This is my preferred position, wallahu alam, based on the complexity of RESPs and based on the opinions that we have here. And I'm open to hearing your opinions on this matter as well. Okay, and if you were to now consider, the group RSP, you can consider group RSP the same way. No access, no zakat. Okay, like the Hanafi position. And then when you get access to your group RSP, you can then pay on it once or pay on it as per the time passes. You can take it and make the group RSP analogous to Damar as well. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Okay, so this is a few of the positions here, and then we will take QA right now, inshallah ta'ala, and go from there. Brother Zaid, are you with me still?
Alaikum. Yes, of course.
Oh,
I am here. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. We can go into the Q&A. Would you like to open it up on your end and just go through it? I've responded to a few questions by text, some of the simpler ones, and then the rest of the ones, if you'd like to take from the top.
Perfect.
That way we can go through them.
Perfect, Shah. So I'll read and answer. So this is anonymous attendee. I would appreciate all of you who put your questions here, inshallah. So number one here is, I'm paying installments. Sorry, we were supposed to go up to 6 o'clock, right? Or was that too much?
I think we're supposed to go till 5:30, but we're a little bit over. So let's try to wrap up as soon as possible.
My bad. Sorry, people. I thought I don't know, my calendar, I thought it was 6, but sorry. Let's do it quickly. I'm paying installments to buy a residential property in Pakistan to build my house. Possession is expected in the next few years after I have paid the full amount, and my intention is to build my house for personal use. So far I have paid about 60% of full amount. Do I need to pay zakat on the amount that I have paid? No zakat paid on property. Remember, no zakat on paid on property. All right. I have a question. Alaikum salam. 125 gram gold, so I have to pay zakat to 125 gram or 125 minus 85. No, gold, the nisab is only something that we say is to calculate how much you need to have before zakat is due. Whatever gold you have, right, you calculate 2.5% of it and give zakat on that, inshallah. Okay, holiday home in another country, no zakat. It's a property. Remember, zakat is restrictive. Okay, I have a contact that is going through divorce, lives out of country, no access to bank account, no documents or ID, has multiple children, no real job, 100% eligible to receive zakat because this is a miskeen person. My zakat, what year round was on Ramadan? I have 10K saving for need to pay for my property taxes. Do I need to pay this 10K or less the property payment and pay the rest for zakat? If you have money that you've committed to something, like you've committed to paying property taxes because you own a property, right? Then you can deduct that amount that you've already committed from the zakat that is due on it, on your wealth. Okay, so yes, you can do that, but generally property taxes are paid monthly. right? You can pay monthly, and I think that's a better way because then you're not just lump sum deducting an amount. Wallahu alam. Okay, zakat applicable on a silver keychain. Not really on a silver keychain. It's an insignificant amount of silver on it. Business taxes we will talk about in the zakat for business, inshallah. Investment property, would zakat be payable to the profit earned when the property is sold? Excellent. When you sell the property and you have the the total amount, not just the profit, the total. This is an investment property, right? So this is not flipping. The whole amount, if that whole amount that you have attained from the sale remains with you for a year, then the zakat is due on it. If that whole amount is not with you for the whole year, you purchase another property, no zakat on anything. Okay. What would zakat replace? Would taxes replace zakat since it has the same purpose? Absolutely not. They don't have the same purpose. Taxes are on your income, zakat is on your saving. Okay. Taxes are used without any, like they're used for all types of purposes. Zakat has very specific restrictive purposes, and it cannot be used for all of that. And of course, taxes you pay to a government that is not a Muslim government, and zakat is to be paid to Muslims. Quick question: a person has $7,000 available in January 2022, and then they accumulate another 5, and then another 5. So in January 2021, they will pay 7,000 times plus 11 times 5,000. That's a complicated way of saying $62,000, but okay. Or do they pay only on 7,000 that they held as the whole year passed? Okay, I get the question. Okay, how do you calculate? The way you calculate, Brother Qazi Uzair, is you look at your balance on the day your zakat is due. That's the easiest way to calculate. The day you're paying zakat, say 1st of Ramadan, you look at your balance on that day and determine your zakat on that day. That's the easiest way to do it. This is something that we've spoken about before in other workshops, and I think the other NZF workshop will speak about this quite a bit more. If someone has a mortgage to pay, is zakat fard on them? Yes, it is. You cannot deduct the mortgage from your net value. Okay, you can only deduct, or you can only say, the amount that I'm owed in mortgage is on this year this amount, and that's it, and only on the principal, not the interest. Should you be paying zakat on the gold that your wife isn't wearing and stored in a bank safety deposit box? The answer for that would be yes, because it is more like a gold bullion. Okay, I have a house here. I'm living in that house. It's on mortgage. Half the price is paid off. Half money from the bank. Do you have to pay zakat? Well, on the house, there's no zakat, right? I have a plot back home to make money for future living, but I'm not sure. If I get some good price, I will sell it. Do I have to pay zakat on the plot? No zakat on the plot until you sell the plot. Once you've sold the plot, then that money is what you pay zakat on. Wallahu alam. What about zakat on PRPP? I don't know what PRPP is, but maybe we can, look this up, inshallah ta'ala, for future purposes. I'm not clear on what fixed assets are in terms of investment. You mentioned that these are not zakatable, if I recall correctly. So we take the total current assets of a company that's on their balance sheet, okay, and you divide that by the market cap of the company. That percentage, right, is of a stock's value is what the zakat is due on the stock, right? In our case of Suncor, that percentage was 18.9%. So of all your Suncor holdings, only 18.95% zakat is due on it, because the other 80% or 81% are like the oven of the bakery, and like the shop of the bakery, and like the sign in the baker's shop, not like the source materials. Okay, alhamdulillah. Investment property is like stock because there will be intention of profit. So I think it should be treated like stock. To the contrary, investment property is more like a house. Its income is like cash, right? So that's two separate things, and we will say that we will make that differentiation. RRIF this is what RRSP becomes, right? But RRSP turns into RRIF. RRIF is the same because you are forced to withdraw from our RRIF. There's too many R's for me to say clearly, but you're forced to withdraw from it, unlike RRSP. RRSP, you can just hold it and you're not forced to withdraw from it. So it's really the same ruling. Wallahu a'lam. If zakat investments are the sole source of income or livelihood, how is zakat calculated in that aspect? I answered that question in the case of the person who is retired and they're living off their RSP. So this is a similar one there. Can you discuss if put options are halal or not, especially when they're not done on margin? Not related to this webinar, wallahu alam, but Sheikh Joe Bradford has an excellent piece on this, on options, and you can look at them inshallah there. Will you be able to show RRSP zakat calculation as a business commodity like you are doing right now for stocks? Yes, so you can do the same for the individual stocks and holdings in your RRSP account, and then you deduct from it whatever amount there is that will be withheld from you when you withdraw from your RRSP, and that is the amount that you give zakat on. Okay. Oh, where does it go? Hold on. All right. Is there any guidelines? Are there any guidelines to determine if to consider an asset as cash or business commodity, or is it based on personal needs? It is your opinion, Brother Rafi, as you see fit, because you are paying zakat on your investments. What about Saudi bonds or Indonesian bonds? I heard they might be halal. Yes, it's a different type. It's called sukuk, but we don't have access to them here, so that's why we haven't discussed them. Okay, zakat was introduced to help the poor. Would taxes replace zakat? No, they have not, and I've answered that before as well. I have a running zakat account. Some years I pay more than due and deduct from next year's zakat. For example, for stocks, if I go with the 30% option, can I deduct additional zakat? And the previous says no. Once you pay zakat with the arshad, it's gone. Alhamdulillah. The rest of it is all ihsan. It's all sadaqah, right? Don't do the zakat is not taxes, right? That you pay more this year and then you can deduct later, or put it down for the next year or whatnot. You pay zakat, alhamdulillah, it's gone. It's done. Start again for the next year, and please don't try to go back retroactively to say, oh, I overpaid zakat, so I need this back now. In fact, if you overpaid it, alhamdulillah, may Allah accept from you. But now you can calculate and pay precisely. How much zakat if I pay? How much zakat I pay if I have a piece of land back home? No zakat until you sell the land. How to pay for cryptocurrencies and mutual funds? I think we answered that extensively. What else is there? Yes. Is it better to pay zakat during certain times like Ramadan? Is that not good for the poor, because then they might not have donations during other times of the year? Well, I mean, it's up to you, right? It's really up to you. In Ramadan is better because of all the reasons I mentioned earlier, but in reality, there's no requirement. So the Hanafis say yes on jewelry, Maliki say no. But what is the Islamic ruling on it? They're both Islamic rulings, brother. No, wait. They're both Islamic rulings. That's the diversity of opinions in our tradition are all Islamic ruling, and you pick either the one that you say, I trust the scholar and I'll follow what they're telling me, or this position makes more sense because its evidence makes sense to me. In our deen, you can choose. You can choose. It's okay. This is what our deen teaches us. Study the evidences, come to your conclusion. No one is going to stop you from it, because this is something you are liable in the eyes of Allah for. As long as you did your due diligence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept from you, inshallah. How much on stocks and crypto should we consider the market or book value? No, we're looking at the the current value is the market value, right? Yes, the current value. Yeah, so you look at the market value, not the book value. Maybe your market value is much lesser than book. Okay, maybe that's me right now. What's the hukum of purchasing or buying back from a defined benefit pension plan, DBPP? This is an optional purchase to make for lost service time, like taking a parental leave. You don't contribute during the time, so you're given an option afterwards if you want to contribute and increase your pension. Excellent question, Brother Abdul Rahman Ramadan. I don't know the answer to this. I will look it up and get back to you, inshallah. Can we somehow state this question, Brother Zaid? Okay, you're muted, but I'm assuming you're saying
yes. Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Rental property, you pay zakat if you stay 1 year. What if if you use, you still pay zakat. If your rental income, you have consumed it all or spent it all, no zakat. Walhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, Brother Zaid answered on the TFSA query. Wa iyyakum, alhamdulillah. For us in Canada with halal investment options, what halal investment options do we have? I know through MD Financial, they have global iman mutual funds. Are there other options? You mentioned like SPUS, is that Canadian? So there's a lot of options. SPUS, Wealthsimple, WSHR. SPUS is on, it's a US, but you can buy it in Canada as well. There's also HLAL. These are all the ETFs that are there, and actually even more, mashallah, there are more coming on the scene every once in a while. How about corporate investment accounts? Excellent question. I think we can talk about this in a lot of detail when we talk about the zakat on business. But the short answer is, if you have a corporate business account, or if you have a corporation that you separate from you for tax purposes, then treat your corporation as a separate zakat entity and treat your corporate investment account like a separate zakat investing account. Okay, and you can pay it all on the same day, but keep it separate, because quite oftentimes, because you're in reality separating it from yourself, and that's the cleanest and the most optimal way of doing it, inshallah. How to avoid haram in RSP given the contract is riba when you signed it? Not really. RSP is not riba. RSP is just the bucket. It depends what you put in it. You can put in something that's halal, you can put in something that is haram. If I have wealth in different currency, do I simply convert to CAD or excellent? Yes, you should do all of your, like, you can convert it all to one currency. That's the easiest way to do it, because then you all have it in one currency and you give it out in that one currency. But say you have other currencies, and whatnot. Say a person has a lot of, like say Pakistani rupees, okay, and then they want to give zakat in Pakistan. Perhaps you could say, you know what, these Pakistani rupees, I will calculate their zakat separately and give zakat of it in that country. That's your option, right? All those options are there. But if you were to simplify, the simplified way is to convert it all to one currency and give zakat from that currency, inshallah. Okay. Is it safe and simple to use a 30% liquided value of the stock value to pay zakat instead of calculating by formula as you provided, as some people like to carry 40, 50 various companies in their stock portfolio? Perfect. Great question, Brother Shahid. Yes, 30% is a very safe number, right? That percentage is quite safe, because as I showed you, those big companies those first top 15 holdings of the SPUS, even the first top 25, none of them even reached like 20% really, right? So that tells you most of the companies are going to be below that threshold, and 30% is a very safe number, inshallah. Can you pay zakat to a masjid? Yes, if the masjid can pay zakat to the people who are zakat eligible. But the masjid cannot use the zakat for its operations. That's not permissible. That is, a masjid can use zakat to support zakat activities, but not use it for their own operations. Wallahu a'lam. If I have 200K in savings, but I have 100K in a house loan, mortgage, do I pay zakat on 200K or 200 minus 100K? Incorrect. You will actually not pay it like this, Brother Adil. You will say you have 100K house loan mortgage. How much of that is your principal? Say the principal of that 100K is 60K, right? Then that 60K divided, what is the amount that you pay per year of that? Maybe that is 10,000. You're paying $10,000 a year in your mortgage. That 10,000 is what you subtract from your savings, and thus you will pay 190K zakat of 190K. I hope that makes sense to you, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. The Ija'at says, is this the website? Options? Yes, that seems to be the website from Sheikh Joe. Stock zakat calculations applicable on crypto, for market cap, etc. No, because for a company, like crypto is it's a digital asset. Even though there is costs and whatnot for the setup for it, it is not the way like the total current assets take into factor a whole host of other things. The market cap in crypto is more talking about how widely adapted it is and how valuable overall it's become. So the market cap is there, but I don't think there's like a balance sheet for crypto. But Zaid, you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, generally speaking, no. It's the currency that you own that's issued by a particular decentralized organization, and the most popular ones like Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that. They're just a currency that's available to you. It's not representative of any company's assets.
Exactly. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. If investment Islamic investment company, how do we pay zakat? Um, we have to know a bit more about that, but sorry about that. But companies, again, you pay zakat on the short-term or total current assets of the company, not the long-term or fixed assets. Can you give your email at Zakat Foundation so I can communicate with you directly? And I call the office, the person answering the phone is not knowledgeable enough to answer stock donation, etc. So Brother Zaid is the man, inshallah, that you can contact. Brother Zaid, if you can give your email to the person here, inshallah. I have unregistered investment. Is this zakatable? Yes. We only spoke about registered accounts because that's most of us have that. But others also, whatever investment account you may have that is due, zakat is due on it, depending on how it is accessible. Alhamdulillah. Barakallahu feekum. Thank you. This is good. A lot of you are saying thank you. Retirement funds zakatable. Yes, we answered that quite extensively with regards to RRSPs and how you see that. And finally here, the credit card balance and the total. In reality, you shouldn't because your credit card bill is essentially like your, like you can do it for the month that you're calculating, but don't turn zakat into like a tax activity where you're adding deductions after deductions. More careful on that, please, inshallah ta'ala. So that is that. Alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khair. I see lots of people mentioning stuff on the chat. Many of you have seen have taken off, but alhamdulillah, thank you all for sticking around till the end. I appreciate you all participating. Alhamdulillah, I hope this was more interactive and beneficial, and inshallah we are available for your questions. And I'll turn it over to Bazai to conclude, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Aarij. I'll just take 2 minutes of your time. I know everybody's been here for just a couple of hours, so alhamdulillah, thank you for your time on Sunday afternoon. Those of you who have missed a recording or just caught the tail end of it, it will be on the NZF Canada Facebook page at NZF Canada. Find us on Facebook and see the recording there. If you register through the Zoom link, we will send you a follow-up email in just a couple of days. We'll give you the link to the recording. We'll give you more information. We'll even embed the Zakat Excel calculator that some of you have asked for. Also, if you have any questions, go to zakat@nzfcanada.com. That's the email, zakat@nzfcanada.com. And with Ramadan coming up, those of you who have started to calculate your zakat and are looking to pay in Ramadan, I urge you to come forward and give it to National Zakat Foundation. And because National Zakat Foundation, we're working here to collect and distribute zakat directly to those who are in need right here in Canada. And especially nowadays, with the increased need from the community, from the Muslim community here in Canada, because of the inflation, increases in cost of living, increase in rental amounts, and a lot of people are, just living below the poverty line, and several people that are coming to us, they are, in hundreds of families that we support, they have very, very little income. And a lot of the times they have thousands of dollars of monthly shortfall, if you could believe that. Please give your zakat locally this Ramadan by going to nzfcanada.com/donate, and we appreciate all of your support. Like I said, you will get an email if you've already registered with more information. With that, I will end it and let you all go and have an amazing rest of evening. Barakallah feek, and thank you again, Sheikh Aarij, for your time and all of your efforts and research that went into making this a reality. And special thanks to the London Muslim Mosque for spreading the word and collaborating with us and making this webinar a success. Barakallah feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.